Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is going to be a great journey. I'm so looking forward to sharing this with y'all. Today we're going to focus on not only my own story and how I became a therapist slash social worker, but I'm going to answer the question I get asked all the time, and that is, how do I become a therapist? There's so many pathways and so many things I want to address, so let's get right into it. Okay, first thing first, please like and subscribe and press that little bell, turn the notifications on. Watch the video all the way through if you can. Any support is good support. I ain't got it like that, but I'm going to get into that a little bit later when I break down like some of the benefits and cost of being a therapist. Like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. That being said, let's get right into it. You also want to emphasize that there are going to be a lot of professions that are not license ready, like there are terminal degrees where you can't get a licensure to practice outside of working at an agency. I'll go over that, and that's only dependent in certain areas. Additionally, it's going to vary from state to state. Each state has its own licensing requirements. You're going to have to look that up on your own. I can try and direct you, but like at the end of the day, you're going to have to look it up because everywhere is so different. Okay, so first I want to touch on the psychology route. If you get a bachelor's in psychology and then get a master's in psychology, you can practice with a master's in psychology, but I believe it would have to be at an agency. You would have to like get licensure in order to open your own practice. A lot of psychologists go the route of getting a PhD or a PsyD, which is like, I don't know the difference. I'm not a psychologist, child. Ask somebody else. Psychology is going to focus primarily on the individual experience, and that's why a lot of people go into psychology. You learn a lot about the brain, you learn about biochemical makeup, you learn ways to address a person's individual circumstance. That's, correct me psychologists if I'm wrong, but that's what I've been taught that psychology is about. Differences between psychology and counseling though is going to be that counseling focuses and centers around specific issues for a specific amount of time. Again, counselors, if I have been taught incorrectly, please comment below and let me know what you think. For example though, I know a lot of counselors who work in the school environment. They specifically cater to students who have a hard time in school academically. They help them through that situation or emotionally. Counseling can range from individual counseling, couples counseling, marriage counseling, you name it. Counseling is a very good pathway to take from what I understand, because I believe you graduate licensed, but I know like a lot of the counseling students that I interned with when I was in my internship days, they work over the summer, so good luck with that, y'all. Next up, we're gonna have our advanced nursing degrees, and this one typically catches people off guard, but yes, having a master's in advanced nursing, you could be a therapist. It is definitely doable. The advanced nursing degree is going to be the pathway that I'm the least familiar with. I would recommend Googling it if you want to go that route. It sounds like a lucrative route, not too familiar though. Honorable mention because I work side by side with people who had a master's degree in criminology. That one's out. That's an honorable mention. Last and certainly not least is going to be having a master's degree in social work, which is what I have. And there are a couple of options and routes that you can take when it comes to getting your master's degree, as you will hear from my story. First, I am an LMSW. And LMSW means that I am a licensed social worker, but I don't have my C yet. And I know a lot of people are constantly asking me online, can I be your therapist? Can you be my therapist? I know, y'all. I want to be y'all therapist too, but until I get my C, y'all gonna have to hold off and hold tight. But I'm gonna explain. So starting from square one, I actually did not come into the social work profession with the hopes of becoming a therapist. Like, that was just something that was a fortunate byproduct. I turned out to be really good at it. I actually really love it, and I don't see myself leaving the profession at all anytime soon. So I have 2 undergraduate degrees, the first one being in political science and the second being in women and gender studies. When I was younger, I was a community organizer. I was in the community. I liked planning events. I like advocating for people in the community, and that was one of the main things that drove me to going to school for social work. Graduating with a political science degree and a women and gender studies degree, I felt like I had two paths that I wanted to take, and I could have either went to law school or I could have gotten my social work degree and worked with people in communities and helping them to advocate and organize and things of that nature. If you haven't picked up the themes yet, I'm basically letting you know that social work is the profession or the pathway towards therapy that focuses a lot on systems, family systems, community systems, societal systems. It is a systems-based pathway to therapy. So where psychologists focus on the individual and counseling focus on specific instances and things of that nature, social work focuses on the person as an individual and the person as they exist in society and the systems around them. This means that we usually range from helping people with therapy by being therapists ourselves. We can do case management, helping people connect to and find resources, or we can even go as far as helping people to organize and advocate for their own rights and things of that nature. Social work is such a versatile degree. Honestly, I'm so happy that I went this pathway, but specifically because a large part of like the way I approach therapy is by helping people to understand the systems that they exist within and addressing it from a standpoint that acknowledges family history, their individual history, in addition to like the place that they play in society and their identity. That is a huge part of why I like social work as a pathway towards becoming a therapist. Okay, as I was saying, I had two options graduating with a degree in women and gender studies and political science. I felt like I could go to law school and become a social worker. Obviously, I chose the social work path, and I was accepted into NYU's MSW program. I actually had plans on doing a JD MSW, but the second I got into social work school, I was like, this is enough for me. I went to my master's program for 2 years. You have to do 2 years in a master's program if you don't have a bachelor's degree in social work, and I'm sure that's the same with all of the other pathways across the board. But because I didn't have a degree in social work, a BSW, I had to go into a 2-year full-time program. You can also go part-time. Those range from being 3 years to 5 years, I believe. After 2 very long years of social work school where I interned both years, I was on a macro track, and this macro track basically meant that I was learning a lot of things. My education centered around like larger systems like communities, organizational change, and things of that nature. I happened to be introduced through my second internship where I was working as a fellow in the program that focused a lot on organizational change. I was introduced to a woman who worked for an agency in New York, the Child Protective Services of New York. I don't know, everybody has a different acronym for it, but I was introduced to a woman who worked for that agency who in turn got me my first position as a therapist once I graduated. I'm no longer at that agency. I was there for a little over a year, but I was at that agency where I was doing family therapy, specific couples therapy, sometimes individual counseling if the kid was too young, but that was my first dip of the toe in therapy. But my main point that I want to drive in this video is that if you decide to go down the pathway of becoming a therapist, there are so many options for you. There's so much that you can learn and take away. It depends on which angle you want to approach it. If you are more of a social justice, like centered, oriented person, I'm going to recommend social work. If you are intrigued by the brain, how the human mind works, if you are if you feel it in your spirit that you are empowered by helping individuals, specifically just individuals, like then you go into the psychology route. If you want to do research, you can do that in any one of these pathways, because I know like we do research when you get a PhD in social work, but you also can do research if you get a PhD in any of the other fields for real. Specifically when you go to social work route, every year you're in school, you're going to have to work an unpaid internship. I believe that's the same across the board because you need clinical hours in order for you to graduate with your master's degree. After you do these clinical hours, you're going to have to graduate in the social work field and work under someone who has an LC-CSW, which is the ability to supervise you and provide you with additional clinical hours, of which you need, depending on your state, 2,000 hours in order to be certified with your C. The C is a clinical license that allows you to open your own practice, an agency. That's the route a lot of people typically go because working at agencies could be very stressful and you could be underpaid because social workers don't make too much. I'm gonna be honest, but I think that's across the board. When you do agency work, it is very rare that you're gonna be paid like a six-figure salary starting out. So get ready for that part. I want to also discuss the licensing process because you have to take an exam for your license. There's also a lot of fees that you have to pay to register. Depending on your state, it's going to be more or less expensive. You have to pass background tests, you have to get fingerprinted, the whole nine, because you're being registered as a licensed therapist. And it is really important that we have these bodies, like, making sure that people can be held accountable when they do therapy, because we are entrusted with like some very serious information. Not only that, but we're also entrusted with people's lives, because some people could have a range of reasons why they're in therapy, including suicidal ideations and attempts. So it is actually life or death, which is why it's important for us to be mindful and be studied and licensed. I get it, even if it's hard. Another thing I want to emphasize is that the path is going to look different no matter who you are. Everybody has their own unique way to becoming a therapist. I do want to just be extra super clear about the type of person that should become a therapist. I believe if your goal is to help others, if you are interested in analyzing your own stuff, learning and unlearning things, if you're willing to teach, if you have a strong sense of empathy, or if you're willing to learn a stronger sense of empathy, I believe that going the route of becoming a therapist is for you. Do I think it's for everybody? Yeah, I don't. But do I think if you have all of the things I just listed that you should try it out or go the route, test the waters? Absolutely. Finding a therapist is so hard because it is so hard to become a therapist. And although there are a lot of things I could talk about, a lot of people would be scared here. There are a lot of things that I could talk about that prevent like people of color, queer people, etc. from becoming therapists. I do have to add that there is just a reason why there's so many hoops that you gotta jump through. It is a very important job and it cannot be taken lightly. If any of you have any questions that you feel were unanswered or any ideas for videos you would like me to address about being a therapist / social worker, please feel free to drop it in the comments. I'm open to us collaborating and y'all asking me whatever question you got, because I'm going to try to answer it as much as I can on this page. I plan on exploring a lot of topics from emotional well-being, therapy tips, the whole nine. But yeah, this is just the beginning. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate you for watching this all the way through, and thank you. This is the beginning of a journey.